First, we do this every so often here on the show. We talk with the Pennsylvania State Climatologist, which just so happens to be located here in the Department of Meteorology. Kyle Imhoff joins us now. Welcome to the show again, Kyle.
Good to be here. Thank you.
And Kyle, we work in the climate office. Let's start with kind of a reminder for folks. What do you do in the climate office here at Penn State?
Sure. So in the climate office, one of our primary responsibilities is to serve the public through the use of archiving and storing real-time weather information and historical weather information, and whatever users may need the data for, we provide that to them, whether it's a research-related project or just someone wanting to know what the weather was like on a given date and time, and we supply that for them.
So as 2019 comes to a close, let's kind of recap some of the big projects in the climate office over the past year.
Yeah, so we do a number of research-related projects. So one of those is a decision support and risk assessment tool for the agricultural community. This is in collaboration with Kansas State University, where we supply weather data to assess the risk of wheat scab, or Fusarium head blight is the official term for it. And that is a wheat-related disease that farmers across the country would want to know whether there's a risk of that disease spreading or not. In addition, we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, in the next couple of minutes, but we have a lot of Mesonet-related activity that we've done over the course of the past 6 to 12 months that's been really exciting and kept the office really busy this year.
And speaking of the office, you know, one thing is that you work a lot with the students here in the Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science. How are they involved?
Yeah, so the students, it's great to have such a large department here at Penn State for meteorology, and we're able to tap into a lot of that student brain power. They help us not only with a monthly newsletter that we send out, they write articles for that newsletter. We also have a lot of research-related projects that we have them working on. It gives them exposure to looking at different climate data sets, and they also help us with our day-to-day activities in the office.
You already touched on it, and I know we've talked about it before here on the show, but the biggest project you said this year was the Pennsylvania Mesonet. Can you refresh us on what that is and update us on the progress?
Yeah, so the Pennsylvania Mesonet, it's really sort of a two-pronged approach with that. The first is developing a user interface where we display all the real-time weather information and weather data, and that is through partnership with PEMA, the Emergency Management Agency. So we are developing right now a website. It's actually keystone-mesonet.org, where you can go and look at real-time weather information for existing weather networks across the state. The other part of it is the Pennsylvania Environmental Monitoring Network, and that is actually just a Penn State initiative where we've received funding to install 20 sites across the Commonwealth, mostly at branch campuses for Penn State, but also at select locations, ag research centers, where we'll be having real-time weather information from research quality weather units that we're really excited about as well.
And so it's a lot more data, basically a network of observing sites that are going to be scattered through the state, and it's going to be freely available?
Yes, that's right. It's publicly available. It's for free. So anybody that wants to go to the website and take a look at the data or download data can do that.
And we've talked a lot about data. Of course, you deal with a lot of data in the climate office. 2019, that data specifically, as the year comes to a close, recap some of the things that you've noticed in the data over the last year.
Yeah, so over the last year, we've seen, so I tend to do a lot of trend analysis, the historical analysis, to see just how things have evolved over the past several decades or even a century or so. One of the things that's really start to look at when you look at temperature data and precipitation data is that we're now seeing about an extra month's worth of precipitation during the annual year compared to what we saw in the early half of the 20th century. So that's a 3.5-inch increase in precipitation during that period of time. In addition, with temperatures, while we're seeing a warming trend across the entire year, the latter half of the year, actually the last quarter of the year, October, November, December, is where we're seeing the largest increases in temperature on the order of about 2 degrees Fahrenheit over the past century or so.
And over the last decade, we're going to be closing another decade. Any big trends or big events in Pennsylvania that stand out to you?
Yeah, so one that really sticks out when it comes to extreme precipitation is the dual rainfall that we received from Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Caused a lot of serious flooding back in 2011, and some places received in eastern Pennsylvania upwards of 20 to 30 inches of rainfall, which to viewers out there, that's approximately 75 to 80% of our annual rainfall totals in parts of the state that received that kind of rainfall. So extreme flooding was a serious problem, caused a lot of headaches for transportation and all sorts of issues. So that really sticks out as one of the major events we've seen over the past decade.
And looking ahead to 2020, we're getting ready to turn over the calendar. What's kind of on your docket for projects in the Climate Office? More Mesonet work, other projects and partnerships?
Yeah, so the Mesonet will really dictate a lot of what we do over the next 5 to 10 years. I think there's a lot of projects that will dovetail off of that Mesonet activity, just using that weather information for existing research work that we already do, but also there's already interest from different partnerships and stakeholders and even state agencies that want to utilize that data to try to take a look at things that will help their operations and help them out in a lot of different ways. So this weather data will be key to a lot of our efforts over the next several years at least.
For sure, and we're almost out of time, but last question I want to get in. You've got a lot of other projects going on, you've got the Mesonet, but what's on your wish list? If you could have data, from somewhere in Pennsylvania, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things that would be really nice to have is vertical profiler data, which we don't really have a lot of yet in the state, and that's just looking at how atmospheric variables change with height into the atmosphere, which will really help not only looking at surface level data, but also as input into weather forecast models, so that would be useful.
Great, well thanks so much for coming in, Kyle. We always appreciate talking with you. We've got more Weather World coming up right after this.